Last night/this morning, I had a really weird dream where I was on loads of planes and went to America.
I'm going to mute everything now.
The New Show 12. I'm Joe.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Dan.
And we're back. And we've got some questions for you as usual. You can send us those questions via email, show@thenew.show, or on Twitter @AskNewShow. And do let us know if you want to remain anonymous, otherwise we might read your name out. And if you want to support creation of these episodes, you can do so on Patreon, patreon.com/AskNewShow. And thank you everyone who is supporting us. It really is appreciated. And remember, if you support us for $5 or more, you can get an advert-free RSS feed, so check that out. So the first question then, stickers on laptops or not? And this is from Jeffrey.
I'm going to say or not. I don't even really like the OEM stickers that some manufacturers put, like the little powered by Intel or whatever jazz. I like it super clean. The Pinebook Pro, how it has like no branding whatsoever except for the little Pine logo on the super key, like that's super slick. Like super minimal branding is where I'm at.
I go through phases. All of the laptops I've had over the last 10 years have gone through phases of being absolutely plastered in stickers or having no stickers or having just one sticker. All of them now have just one sticker, just an Ubuntu sticker. But at some point, my T450, my X220 and my MacBook Pro before that all were plastered in stickers. And at some point, I rage quit stickers and just peeled them all off and then used Goo Gone to remove all the crud and then cleaned the lid, and that was it. They were gone and it was clean again. But I think it's when I go to a conference, I get bitten by sticker bug and I end up putting loads of stickers on while I'm at the conference. And then a few months later, I think, what the hell was I thinking? And then peel them all off again. I've gone through this multiple times. It's stupid. And I'm going to resolutely not do that ever again. All the stickers I get from conferences just go in a bag and they're in a drawer, and I'm probably never going to stick them on anything.
Well, I have kind of two rules, really. Is it something that I'm ever likely to sell or not? And so any good laptops don't get any stickers. Anything that's a bit shit gets covered in stickers. So my Chromebook that I bought really cheap, it was a C720. I've actually given it to my mum now, covered in Linux stickers. That it was like a refurb, and it was in pretty poor cosmetic condition. Someone had tried to clean it with a solvent and it just looked a bit ropey, really. And so I just thought, fuck it, whatever, I'll just cover that in stickers. And my desktop machine, I mean, I'm never going to sell that. That's like 10 years old plus at this point. And the case was never particularly expensive, so I've covered one side of that in stickers. But my nice laptops, no, they just remain pristine, not even any stickers at all. What are some native Linux apps that you think are a great example of modern and intuitive UI design, something you think developers should try to follow or replicate in their own software? And this is from Matt.
Well, I'm going to have to pimp some App Center apps out, man.
Like we didn't see that coming.
So cheers, Matt, for handing me that one. That's a softball. Honestly, I'd say probably one of the best native apps I've seen is Planner, and it's a Todoist app, but it's native GTK. And it's so good that when Todoist announced that they were going to make their Linux app, I saw so many comments on like blogs reporting it that were like, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use Planner. That's how good it is. It's better than the actual endorsed app.
I'm not sure about this question, mainly because I get really uptight about people saying native. What the fuck do you mean by native application?
It uses platform APIs. It confirms to accessibility settings and all that kind of good stuff. You change your text size in the operating system, it changes its text size. It uses high DPI.
That could apply to a lot of things if they're well made. It doesn't necessarily have to be written in a particular language or, using a particular toolkit or something. So long as it's, compliant. Well, that's your judge on what's native. Like, I think what most people think when they say native is not something that's like an emulated Windows application in Wine, probably, or not something that's written in Java. I hear people say, oh, that's not native, it's Java or something, which I find is bullshit because nobody ever complains about applications on Windows being native or not, or most people don't. I'm sure some people complain about, the new Windows design paradigm and Metro and then the old classic Windows paradigm. And nobody ever cares really about whether something's native or not. It's really whether it works or not.
I completely disagree with you. So hard.
Yeah, of course you do. Because you're like elementary. Of course you do. But I look around and almost none of the applications I'm running right now are what you might call native. I've got the odd Java thing, a Qt thing, something written in Flutter, something written in Python. They're all different things, different toolkits. They're all inconsistent, and I don't give a shit because they all work.
But you're weird, Alan. You're not a normal person.
I'm very normal. I can show you numbers that prove that I'm very normal because there are millions of other people who use these same apps.
We constantly hear from users, even if they don't understand the difference, that they're like, why doesn't this app work? Why doesn't it do this correctly? Why doesn't it integrate like that correctly? We really hear it. Even if they don't know why, they know it's wrong.
And yet you don't hear from all those millions of people who are just sat there using these applications perfectly fine all day, every day, and don't give a shit because they're quite happy using the fact that Audacity looks like dog shit GTK2 or whatever the hell it is. But it's a great application for recording audio and it does the job. And the vast majority of people actually just want to achieve a task. They don't want platform consistency. They just want a thing to do the job. And how do I do the job? I install this thing and this thing helps me do that job.
There's such another layer to that, though, of people can't get the job done a lot of time for applications that are too cumbersome or confusing or don't show up at the right resolution as their monitor or they can't use accessibility tools with. Like, it doesn't do the job if it doesn't have at least a bare minimum level of integration. Like Steam for the longest time didn't do the job on high DPI monitors because you couldn't even see the fucking interface because it was so shrunk. Like, if there's not at least some level of nativeness, then it doesn't do the job for a lot of people.
It turns out the vast majority of people don't have high DPI monitors. So back in the day, it didn't matter that it doesn't do scaling properly. And yeah, okay, things have changed and a lot more people have high DPI monitors. And so applications are becoming more conformant and things look a bit prettier. But certainly back in the day, some of these things didn't matter. And I still maintain that for a large number of people, 1080p is still the resolution they use, and the vast majority of applications look fine in 1080p. They might not look beautiful, but they look and work just fine.
Well, high DPI isn't about looking beautiful. Like it's literally unusable. Like the UI is too small. It's the wrong size. You can't see it. Like it isn't just that's like a huge problem is when we talk about user experience, it's not about looking beautiful. Like this is such like a ridiculous thing though to say. Like that's not even right at all because it's users can't even use these apps if like contrast isn't good or if they can't use their screen reader or if their inputs don't work. Like that's what user experience is. It's not about making it look beautiful. Like it's about being able to even use the app.
Can we drag it back on topic then and talk about, let's not care about whether it's native or whatever your definition of that is, but what are some good examples? Let me start then. Ubiquity, the installer. I think that is a great installer. Compare it to Anaconda from Fedora, for example, which is more powerful but far less intuitive. I think just the way that Ubiquity has simplified everything is just a brilliant example of good design.
Well,
yeah.
I was quite surprised that you picked that because it's quite aged and it hasn't had any design love for a very, very long time. It hasn't been touched in terms
because it's good and doesn't need it.
No, that's not true. It really does. It looks aged. And I would say the same thing of things like Ubuntu Unity. It looked okay back in the day, but if you spin up Unity on 2004 right now, it looks aged, and Ubiquity is the same. Yeah, you can give it a new lick of paint and change the theme and put some new pictures in there, but it doesn't change the fact that it's quite old and crusty by now.
How would you change it, though? And more importantly, why? Why would you change it?
Well, I'd simplify it. Some of the screens look a little bit too busy for me, and there's too much going on. But I think the installer that I used on the Pinebook Pro that was used by Elementary was pretty clean. There were few questions asked. There were few things I had to do. There were a few buttons presses. It was a little bit weird in that sometimes I couldn't tell where I needed to click because there were just pictures on the screen and there was no outline around them. And I couldn't really tell. But once I figured out what the meaning of that was, and I'm sure that will be fixed or, will be addressed. But it was a lot simpler. And it didn't feel like I was doing something technical when I was installing Elementary on the Pinebook Pro.
Yeah, but the difference is that was an OEM installer. It had already been installed to the disk. And so it had one major step removed from it.
I don't think it really matters. It's not the number of steps. It's the way it's presented cleanly and not having a load of additional cruft, like cluttering the screen up and stuff that just, I don't know, it just looks old.
That's actually one of the big reasons that we worked with System 76 to develop a new installer flow was that with Ubiquity, you have two completely different flows for regular installations and OEM flows. And it makes it really complicated, especially when you have lots of users who are in between those things where they're trying to prepare a computer for a friend or family member, or they're a small computer repair shop that doesn't do mass imaging. And so it doesn't account for the kind of needs that users have when they're installing these days. Not everybody who is going to use the operating system is going to be the person doing the install process. So that's a kind of a big reason to change Ubiquity is the new setup flows in GNOME assume that you have this setup process that happens after installation, after you reboot in. I think there's been more of an emphasis on onboarding placed, probably driven by like mobile and tablet workflows. But yeah, Ubiquity is kind of outdated in those ways.
And if you're looking at applications, because Ubiquity really isn't an application as such. I mean, okay, it is an application for installing the OS, but traditionally people think of like desktop applications, and I think it depends on your target audience as to what it's going to look like or what it's going to feel like. Like if you look at developer tools like Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text or something like that, I enjoy using those things. But if I was going to suggest applications that I think I like the flow of, I would probably user tools, not developer tools. I would think of some of the stuff that's on Ubuntu Touch, something like the music app. It's a lot simpler and not as busy as Rhythmbox used to be and Banshee and some of the other music players. So I think I like the simplicity of some of those Ubuntu Touch apps over desktop apps. There's not many desktop apps that immediately sprung to mind when you asked that question, to be honest.
This episode is sponsored by Datadog, the unified monitoring and analytics platform for comprehensive visibility into cloud, hybrid, and multi-cloud environments. Quickly analyze the performance of your Linux servers in real time with customizable dashboards and troubleshoot Linux issues in seconds with a unified view of your metrics, traces, and logs all in one place. With integrations for over 400 technologies, you can even use Datadog to monitor key Linux source metrics alongside data from the rest of your stack to get full visibility into the health and performance of your entire infrastructure. Start your Datadog trial today by visiting datadog.com/thenewshow. Start your free trial, create one dashboard, and you'll get a free Datadog t-shirt. That's datadog.com/thenewshow. At what point do you muster the guts to tell your friend that they are better off without their significant other?
This is tricky because I've done this many years ago, like 20 years ago. A friend of mine was dating someone, and at the time, I think he was also seeing someone else. And I told the woman he was dating, I said, she was absolutely besotted by him and absolutely, head over heels, and was like, he's the one. I was like, well, maybe don't put too much trust in this guy, And then I was like, I think I'd had a couple of beers and we were at a party, and I tried to wriggle out of that, but wasn't able to. So yeah, that ruined that relationship somewhat. So I won't be doing that again.
So for you, just never is a good time. Just let them make their own mistakes and let them work it out.
I mean, if they want to talk to you about it, you can be supportive to them, whichever half of the relationship talks to you. But it's super difficult to insert yourself into that conversation because people are going to make mistakes, and sometimes people have to learn. Now, if someone's getting damaged along the way, like if someone was being financially ripped off by a scam or something, or, there was something deeper that, violence or something, then yeah, okay, probably would step in. But if it's just these people are not getting on, or there's, something going on behind the scenes, it's often none of your business. So stay out of it, in my mind.
I think it's different if they are clearly two-timing or something like that. That's kind of different. But what about if there's someone who's just, they get together with someone and that other person is just a nightmare and just obviously the wrong person for them, and you feel like you want to say something? This must have happened to both of you. You must have had friends who have got together with someone, they're just obviously the wrong person for them.
Yeah.
And you want to say something, but you just feel like you can't, can you? Or can you, is the question.
No. And afterwards you can support them when it all falls apart. I had a friend who we all thought his girlfriend was a crazy lady, and they ended up getting married, and they moved out to the States together. And then one day it all fell apart, and he ended up leaving and coming home to the UK without a penny to his name, left everything in the States, including her, and just broke it up completely. And we were there to support him when he came back. But at the time, when he went, it was like, well, good luck, hope it all works out. But you never know what goes on behind closed doors inside someone else's relationship. From the outwards, you might think, wow, what a shambles that relationship is, or what a complete shit show. But when you look at, because you don't see everything, you don't see them 24 hours a day, so you don't know what's going on the other side. You can't make that judgment because you're not that involved in that relationship. So you can't. I think you're better off staying out, but being supportive when they need you.
Yeah, I guess for me, the line is where they start conveying that they're deeply unhappy, or that they're frequently unhappy or frustrated, or it seems like they feel like they're not going to be able to achieve their goals or things like that, where it becomes like a really obvious negative influence on their happiness or their life. If it's just someone I don't like I'm not in a relationship with them, I don't need to like them, but if my friend is coming to me and repeatedly telling me oh yeah, this happened and it really sucks and I'm unhappy, then there's got to be a certain point where it's hey, I hate to state the obvious, but you seem like you're continuing to have these issues, and they seem to be kind of based around this relationship. I think there's got to be a breaking point there where at least it's hard when you're in a relationship to always necessarily think critically about it. You want to believe the best of that person, and especially when there's something wrong, but you want to go, they're going to change and all that kind of stuff. I think there is some level of, I don't think responsibility is a great word because I wouldn't fault anybody for not, but there's some level of, I would appreciate my friends keeping me tethered to reality.
It does depend on how well you know them, though, doesn't it? If you really, really know them and can be honest with them, then it's easier. But even then, I've been in that situation where it was just really obvious, and I just couldn't bring myself to actually say it. And I just had to let it figure itself out. And it did in the end. And things are all fine now. And I can think of 2 people where this has happened, and 2 people who I should have been able to speak to about it. And I could have made their lives happier more quickly. But then I suppose there wouldn't be the people they are if they hadn't made those mistakes and stuff.
Yeah, I can think of a couple of situations with some really close friends where it's been obvious to various people that their relationships were destructive. And I don't think it was problematic to lay it on the table, because it wasn't like, oh, I dislike this person or whatever, or you can't tell people what to do. The only thing you can really do is kind of point out what's happening. If you stay objective and say, hey, these are the facts, and then kind of you can ask them, like, is that the kind of relationship that you want? You can force them to consider the facts, but you can't tell them what to do.
What's the worst movie you've seen more than 5 times?
This is tricky for a few reasons. Why would someone watch a terrible film multiple times is the first thing that springs to mind. And how are you measuring best and worst?
Just the movie that you think is the worst movie that you've seen, but more than 5 times. So it's obviously not going to be the worst movie you've ever seen. That's the genius of the question, you see.
Yeah. So I've made a list of some of the films that I think other people might consider are the worst movies that I know I have seen probably 5 times. There's a couple that I'm not sure I could say hand on heart 5 times, like Freddy Got Fingered, for example.
Yeah.
And that comes in at 4.6 according to IMDb, which is, but I think I've only seen that a couple of times. So I don't think I can honestly use that one. And I started looking at like pastiche films like Starship Troopers, because I know a lot of people really hate that. And I brought that up in a meeting earlier in the week. And someone was like, oh my God, that film's shit. I walked out of the cinema. Half the cinema walked out when that was on. And I was like, really? I don't think it was that bad. And I've definitely seen that 5 times. And that's got 7.2 on IMDb.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's a nice romp, as they say. Another one I saw, which I know a lot of people criticize, is AI, that one with a little boy robot thing. And I've definitely seen that 5 times, but that was 7.2 as well. It ranked the same as Starship Troopers.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
No, it's not. It's pretty good. It's quite long, but I quite like it. But actually, the film I've definitely seen more than 5 times, which gets the lowest ranking of all the films I've seen, I think, is Tron Legacy, which only has 6.8 on IMDb. And I love that film. Absolutely, properly love that film. So I think that's probably it, actually, Tron Legacy.
But you think it's good?
Yeah, I love it.
So therefore, it's not the worst movie, according to you. You're trying to use IMDb, which is just a bunch of other people's opinions.
Right, but I didn't know, the question didn't say, what's the worst film that you, Alan, think is the worst film? It just said, what's the worst film that you've seen more than 5 times? And I don't know what the measure of worst and best was. You know, I didn't know if you two were going to critique my list and go, oh God, that's shit, Alan. How can you possibly sit through that film? Oh my God, I'd have to be nailed to the spot to watch that. I don't know. Or what? But I don't know. Yeah. It's really hard, that question, because I don't think there's many films that I would sit through 5 fucking times. I'll tell you what, I've got it. Star Wars Episode 1. There you go.
Star Wars The Phantom Menace.
It's a shit film, and I've definitely seen that more than 5 times.
I don't know why everybody hates on the prequels so much. I think they're great stories.
What I like about the prequels is that they changed the Star Wars universe from being fantasy to sci-fi.
Did they?
Yes, because of midichlorians, which people say, oh, that ruined the whole thing. But no, the whole Jedi magic powers thing was just magic before, but midichlorians gave it a scientific or, pseudo-scientific sci-fi explanation for how the people who were Jedi had those powers.
I don't think that overwrites all the other stuff that's just blatantly nonsensical magic.
It gives it a scientific foundation, It doesn't make sense, obviously. It's just ridiculous. It's fiction. But it changes it fundamentally from fantasy to sci-fi as far as I'm concerned.
I think my problem with the first one is the whole pod racer bullshit. I hate that part of the film. I could just easily skip that entire part of the film. I don't care about any of that. Mainly because I don't watch any kind of sport. And so I can't get bought into the, supporting the character. And, it feels like Penelope Pitstop and the Keystone Cops and that kind of chase. It just looks ludicrous and is stupid and I hate it. And the character is annoying little prick and I don't like him. So yeah, for all those reasons, I've actually come to a conclusion now. Star Wars, the first one, is the worst film of all time as far as this question goes.
I also feel like this question's difficult because I don't know how many movies that are bad that I've seen more than 5 times. Like, that's so many times to watch a movie that you just don't like. Like, what circumstances are leading you to have to sit there for like an hour and a half 5 times through something you don't like? I don't know.
I've got a good example. When your girlfriend wants to watch Dirty Dancing or Grease.
Okay, that's
fair. You sit through it for them. So actually, I would probably put Dirty Dancing near Star Wars as one of the worst films that I happen to have seen 5 times, but I only saw it 5 times because various girlfriends over the years have said that that's their favourite film. I remember being in a queue at an airport once, and I was chatting to another canonical person about best films or something, and I said, well, there's the 2 films that all women like, and these 2 women in front of me in the queue, ears pricked up and like went to turn around, and I went, Dirty Dancing and Grease, and they both nodded and were like, yep, you're right, yes, there, obviously.
Or, in my case, the 2008 classic starring Pamela Anderson and Denise Richards, I know it's on the tip of your tongue, Blonde and Blonder.
Okay.
Which is sort of a terrible, almost parody of Dumb and Dumber. It gets 2.8 on IMDb.
Ooh.
And for some reason, my wife loves it. It's just so ridiculous that she loves it and she makes me watch it. Now, she claims that we've not watched it more than 5 times, but I am fucking certain that we have over the last 15 years. Well, I suppose over the last 12 years that it's been out, we have seen that at least 5 times. And it's like so bad that it's funny in a way. It's much like Freddy Got Fingered, which would be my other one. But yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like, movies that I watched as a kid over and over and over again, I guess.
Ooh.
Or actually, you know what? Now that I think about it some more is my little sister was obsessed with The Wizard of Oz, and I think I just got sick of that movie. I think that's my one that I've seen more than 5 times that I'm tired of watching that movie. I can't watch it anymore.
It's not a bad movie, though.
But I just can't watch it anymore. It's been too many times. And it's funny because even like every single year for Christmas, my mom likes watching Serendipity. We watch this movie like every year. And I'm fine watching that movie. I think it's a great movie. But for some reason, I'm just burnt out on The Wizard of Oz.
See, Joe, you've just done the thing you said you weren't going to do. You asked me what my worst film was. And then when Dan wanted to say that his worst film was Wizard of Oz, you said, that's not a bad film, though. So it's like, who's the judge here of what is a good film and a bad film? Is it what Joe says?
I'm sure it's objectively a better film, but I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Dan said he was sick of it. You didn't say that it's a bad movie.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
He did put it forward for an answer for the question, though.
Well, he's wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, I guess like probably the dumbest movie that I've seen more than 5 times is probably like the Kevin Costner Robin Hood. Like, and I still feel like it's actually a pretty good movie, though. It has a 6.9 on IMDb.
So one that I've got on DVD, and it was one of the first DVDs I ever bought, and it's got 6.3 on IMDb, and I'm pretty certain I've watched it 5 times, which was Roller Coaster. And the only thing I remember about that film is that, you know how they tell you what kind of audio system the thing was filmed in, like if it's 5.1 or 3.1 or something. It's the only film I'm aware of which is filmed in 1.1. It's mono with a sub. It's not even stereo.